Dirty water and how do you do? Welcome to the Boston Schmuck Sportscast. I am the Schmuck, Chris the Nerd. Now you may be wondering, with so many sports shit posters out there, why are you throwing your neck into the line of fire? And the reason is simple. I'm kind of bored and I got nothing else to do, so I figured I'd do this. Now I could spend my first episode dispelling your fears that I'm only going to talk about my favorite teams, but I'm not going to do that. And while I may have a soft spot in my heart for my home country of Boston, Massachusetts, I don't live there anymore. And in fact, moving away has allowed me to expand my horizons in ways I could have never imagined had I stayed up there much longer. Today we're going to be talking about the National Football League. You see, after 3 weeks, it's really easy for us to evaluate where the teams are and where they're going to be in the future, barring significant injury. And you may be like, "Oh man, I don't want to listen to this guy. He only likes the Patriots, and I've been taught for the last 11 years to hate them and their fans. Greater than sign equals open parenthetical." Don't worry, I figured this might be a point of contention for some of you, so I decided to rank all 32 teams by order of where I put them in terms of my favorites. Here that list is, B. Probably a few surprises on that list, huh? Yeah, I bet you weren't expecting that, so let's briefly go over each team and judge their performance after only 3 weeks of play. Because this is the best time to do bullshit like that.
I will always root for the New England Patriots, but if I want quality football, I'll need to pick a new team to actually watch. I spend so much time cringing watching them play against the Lions. Their offense will get better with the return of Julian Edelman, and of course if Josh Gordon pans out, but this defense is absolutely wretched. They're big, they're slow, they bring no energy, and have only one cornerback worth a rip. Get ready for a long season, fellow Pats fans. They are who we thought they were. 3 weeks in a row. For as old and as slow as the Patriots have looked, the Cardinals have looked older and slower. I never bought into Sam Bradford as a starting quarterback, and he looked like a miserable fuck in all 3 of his starts. Josh Rosen tried to bring in a spark, but I think he's colorblind. The Cardinals are back to the basement of the NFC West. Their days of being a stacked defense is long gone. Dab, 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 dab. After winning a stinker against the Cowboys, the Panthers lost a tough game against the Falcons and managed to beat a Bengals team that couldn't get out of its own way. Andy Dalton threw 4 lame ducks for easy interceptions, although I'll admit one was a nice diving INT for F.A. Obata. This team could make some noise this year. They have a decent defense and a great offense. They're a good team to follow, provided Cam Newton stays invested the entire time.
Right now Cam seems invested. As such, so am I.
The Champs haven't looked particularly strong to start the season. They had a clunker victory against the Falcons, but it was opening day. They got tied up in Fitzmagic in Tampa Bay and won another clunker against a team consisting of only Andrew Luck and Adam Vinatieri. Carson Wentz looked okay in his return, but it'll be great to see him progress throughout the year. I wouldn't worry about these close games with lesser competition. They should be fine. Duval. I worry about the Jags. They still have the oeuvre of a cocky team like they did last year. They got strong victories against the Giants and Patriots, but they should have rolled the Titans. Instead, they lost a 9-6 snoozer. The defense is still impressive to be sure, but the biggest worry for them has and will always be their offense. Even if Blake Boggle struggles, this team should be fine. Holy moly, this team is a video game. They run crazy plays and put up big yardage. Pat Mahomes has the stones of a rock biter. He slings it to all of his receivers with reckless abandon, and they make ridiculous catches for him. Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, and Sammy Watkins. This team is a force to be reckoned with and will shred everyone they face, but their defense is abysmal and will allow everyone else to stay in the game. To be expected of an Andy Reid-led team. When you watch the Saints, you're like, who dat? They can do that. I've always enjoyed watching the Saints play. They're a high-energy team with a high-energy coach and a fun offensive scheme. They were one blown play away from the NFC Championship game last year, and they started off pretty poorly this year. They managed to get back on track somewhat against the rival Falcons. To me, they're the NFC version of the Chiefs. They have a quarterback that could make your mom a viable wide receiver, and a defense that can't keep the other team out of the end zone. S-K-O-L! Skull! We all have bad weeks. Sometimes you want to destroy the tape of a bad performance like Steve Buscemi going through a wood chipper. That's what Minnesota needs to do. They lost in a dreadful defensive showing against the Buffalo Bills. To be fair, Josh Allen brought a spark to a desperate team. The Vikings still have a damn good offense, a pretty good quarterback, and they've got a great defense that did manage to hold the Bills in the second half to 0 points. It was just too little too late. They'll bounce back. The Bengals are a sleeper team this year. They came out of the gate strong, putting together 2 good wins, and provided they don't nerf themselves out of contention as they always seem to do, they should be able to make a go at the AFC North. Andy Dalton has 2 legitimate targets in Boyd and AJ Green, but he just needs to tone back on those jump balls to wide open defenders. I don't ever know what to think of the Broncos from year to year. Mile High is one of the most advantageous home stadiums in the league. It's loud and the air is thin. I'd love to watch a football game there someday, and with your generous Patreon donations, that could one day happen. Of course, the quality of the game all depends on which version of Case Keenum we get. Do we get the Vikings Case Keenum that had an array of weapons around him and a good defense to back him up? Unlikely, as the offensive weapons aren't as numerous in Denver, but the defense is at least decent. Unless, of course, they allow average Joe Flacco to toss nearly 300 on them and only put him on his back twice.
Alright, the Raiders. So excited to be wearing my Khalil Mack jersey again. Oh wait, he's on the Bears now. That's okay. I mean, the Raiders probably still have a good pass rush without him, right? I mean, they got 3 sacks, they got a forced fumble, they got an interception. That's not bad. Except for the fact that Khalil Mack also has those same stats by himself. No, I'm just kidding. No, he doesn't. He actually has an additional sack and also a defensive touchdown. Yeah, the Bears won the trade for Khalil Mack. That's no question, and the Raiders don't look good. I'm worried.
Throw the cheese! Is it official? Can we say what we've all been saying for years now? Expecting Aaron Rodgers to play hero ball every week is absolutely absurd. The man has nothing around him. There is no running game and a weak offensive line. Clay Matthews is apparently hated by the league and has been flagged for illegal tackle every week. It's heartbreaking as a fan of the sport to listen to him say that he even went up to the opposing quarterback to ask if there was anything he could have done differently.
No, Clay, you are perfect, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You're one of my favorite people on this planet, and the only thing that should be done differently in Green Bay is getting some talent around Aaron Rodgers. The guy can't do it all himself. He's on one leg, for crying out loud. I don't care how many INTs were thrown against Pittsburgh. I believe in Fitzmagic.
Even though they lost the game, Fitzpatrick almost brought them to an amazing comeback victory. There's some weapons on this Bucs team. They've got a solid defense and playmakers on offense. Fitzpatrick will have his ups and downs, but I think he can get it done with the receiving core he has. Also, after beating the Eagles, he came out dressed like this. It is impossible for me to hate this man. Much like the Patriots, this team is a shell of its former self. Like their East Coast counterparts, there's still a great quarterback in place and a couple of nice pieces here and there, but nowhere near the talent to stay at the top of the league. The Legion of Boom is long gone or retired, and the offensive line might as well be directing traffic into the pocket. The team had a nice win against a Cowboys team that couldn't help but give them the ball back. They managed to take advantage of Dallas' mistakes and use a running game, and I quite like Seattle running back Chris Carson. I'll be rooting for him to do well this year because if you take the S out of his name, we'd have the same name, and that is important to me. It's the little engine that could. I'll admit, I have a long way to go before I join the elite of sports shit posters, but I'll always look up to the god king of hot take sport shit posting and Colin Cowherd. He always has picked strange hills to die on, and his beef with Baker Mayfield is absolutely hilarious. Some nerd was on his show talking about how terrible it was that Baker Mayfield was on his phone after winning against the Jets. Now I grant you, a win against the Jets is nothing special, but come on. I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield even harder now for that very reason, to piss off dumb nerds. Ignore the fact that my handle is Chris the Nerd, and I'm quite dumb myself. That's unimportant. The Browns aren't great, but they are improved. They'll win a couple more times this year. That's about it. Next. Quoth the Raven. Baltimore. To me, the Ravens have always been above average. Even in their years of prominence, I've found them to be only above average. They piqued my interest this year after drafting Lamar Jackson, and I think the threat of the new kid will light a fire under average Joe Flacco. On pace is a dumb stat, especially at this point in the year, but he is on pace to be better than he's ever been. If they can establish a good running game, the Ravens might have a legitimate chance at the North. Bears. I already talked about Khalil Mack. He's been absolutely brilliant. The Bears have a scary front seven, and it's going to be damn difficult for any team to make headway against it. It's a good thing for those other teams. The Bears also have Mitchell Trubisky. I feel for Mitch. He looks lost out there sometimes. Luckily, he's got Matt Nagy as a coach, and he schemes around Trubisky's weaknesses, which is what a good coach should do. The team is an Aaron Rodgers miracle away from 3-0, and I think they can make it happen in the AFC North, which is pretty difficult considering the Vikings and Packers are legit. I wish the Bears luck. The greatest show on turf. If there is likely to be any team that moves up significantly in my personal fave rankings, it is the Rams. They've looked phenomenal since last year. Jared Goff is comfortable in the pocket, and they've got some great weapons for him. They've put up over 30 points in each of the 3 games. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Todd Gurley are all huge assets. You'll notice I didn't mention Brandon Cooks. Be mindful, Rams fans, I watched Brandon Cooks all last year while he was with the New England Patriots. He can streak and he's got speed, but he doesn't fight for the ball. There will be contested plays he doesn't make this year that will frustrate you in the same way they frustrated me. 28-3, 28-3, yeah. If there is any offensive coordinator in this league with a ton of hype behind him that I just don't trust, it's Steve Sarkisian. Him and Josh McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, 5 wide again. His red zone offense is abysmal, and he's got some of the best offensive toys to play around with. I know the Falcons have suffered through some pretty rough injuries to Keanu Neal, Takk McKinley, and Devontae Freeman, but the Falcons just can't keep the opposition out of the end zone, nor can it find it within 20 yards. So goddamn frustrating.
Put closer to the basket.
What's this? An AFC East team not in the bottom 3 due to pettiness?
No, dear friends, I get immense entertainment from the Buffalo Bills, and it's not schadenfreude either. I respect the Bills, their fans, their coach, not so much their front office, but everyone else. Josh Allen could be a spark for this team. They've got something to prove. They got absolutely pantsed in the first week, and they're going to play tough and hard each game this year. I still think they'll finish near the bottom, but I doubt you'll see play like the first week from them again. Oh, dear. Yes, the Steelers got a win in Tampa. Vance McDonald stiff-armed a man's soul clean out of his body. I may move them up in the rankings just for that stiff arm alone. Having watched it a few times, I can tell you it wasn't the only thing to get stiff, if you get my meaning.
It's my neck. It's really stiff from hunching over the computer.
Anyway, the Steelers are a dumpster fire that the insane amount of talent they have will always bail them out of. Any other team would implode, but the stacked nature of the offense is what keeps it alive. But when it all matters, this team will puke on its shoes as it has done every year. The blue-eyed baby boy of Susan and Casey Beathard has the hopes and dreams of the San Francisco Bay Area on his back. Jimmy G. Injury. I feel bad. The kid, I say kid, he's like my age. He finally got to play and he got injured again. Now it's easy to play hindsight and say that he should have just stepped out of bounds. Luckily, there are a couple of weapons for CJ Beathard to play with. Matt Breida is fun to watch, and George Kittle is a strong target. Luckily, in the next 5 weeks, the Niners will play the Cardinals twice and the Chargers. All 3 are manageable games. We'll talk after that. Next. Mariota. After Blaine Gabbert took a nasty shot to the head, Marcus Mariota came in and led the Titans to a garbage-fire victory against the Jaguars. Blaine Gabbert did admirably in his start against the Texans, but probably wouldn't have been as successful against the Jags. Marcus Mariota was the perfect wrinkle for a cocky team that didn't plan for him. Mariota got some decent runs to get them into field goal range, which was all that was needed. I don't trust the Titans to fluke their way to Foxborough like they did last year. I see them finishing middle of the pack or below. Go Chargers, go! The Chargers, they play in Los Angeles, and nobody cares. Phillip Rivers throws the ball weird. I like Keenan Allen. I guess Eric Weddle saying goodbye to San Diego was a nice moment. Oh, wait a minute. No, that happened like 3 years ago. He's not even on the Chargers anymore. Have I forgotten everything about this team? Is LaDainian Tomlinson still their running guy? There's 2 teams in LA? Laces out, Dano. The Dolphins are off to a hot 3-0 start. Ryan Tannehill must have heard the joke I made about him in a different series of videos. To be fair, they haven't exactly played against stellar competition. They have a tough test against the Patriots in Foxborough after the Pats have lost 2 straight. They'll be out for blood. I do think the Dolphins can win that game in the exact same way they beat the Raiders. Take advantage of aging slow corners. Danny Amendola will likely be a factor in this game, which irritates me. I miss you, Danny. Houston, we have a problem. The Texans are about to face the Cowboys, Colts, Bills, and Jaguars in the next 4 weeks, and the way they've looked so far, I could see them losing all 4. I don't know how a team with their defensive front can't get past the paltry O-lines of the Patriots, Titans, and Giants. They have 7 sacks on the year, but Deshaun Watson has been brought down 10 times himself. He's thrown 3 picks, lost a fumble, and put 2 more on the ground. Clean up, or you're not going to be able to do anything. The Redskins, I guess. I saw the win against Arizona as a fluke. The next week, the Skins looked absolutely anemic against the Colts, and that's what I thought you could expect from them the whole year. A roller coaster. In fact, I still expect that to some degree. I don't trust this Redskins team, even with the ultimate manager Alex Smith leading them. Still, winning against the Packers is nothing to scoff at. In the next 2 weeks, it'll be interesting to see as they face the Saints and Panthers. If they go 1-1, expect the team to finish 8-8. The New York Football Giants. Is this some of that trademark Boston spite?
No. Yes.
It doesn't matter. Keep letting him get sacked and don't draft quarterbacks. Hilarious. Put him up, put him up. Is this some of that trademark Boston spite?
No. Alright, this time actually no.
I've just never cared for the Lions. Every time I try to like Matthew Stafford, he throws one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. He got away with another bad one against the Patriots with an absolute duck to Juwan Bentley. You have the speed advantage. Why did you back shoulder throw to a guy that had a step on a slow linebacker, you absolute buffoon? If any team could possibly drag themselves from the dregs of the bottom half of my personal faves list, it is the Lions thanks to their hiring of my spirit animal, Matt Patricia. How about them Cowboys? America's team, right? Yeah, okay. They've looked really sluggish this year. 3 absolute stinker games thus far. The Cowboys have a tough road ahead of them, and if they cough up the football again on careless attempts at a few extra yards like they did against the Seahawks, the team won't even sniff a wild card. Next. The AFC runner-up! Is this some of that trademark Boston spite?
No. This one's a joke.
The Colts don't belong at the bottom of my personal faves list. I love Andrew Luck, and I really like T.Y. Hilton. The Colts have caught a bunch of bad breaks, but I truly despise Jim Irsay. He's an utterly detestable miscreant, and I want to see the franchise fail because of him. I badly wish that Andrew Luck would beg for a trade and go somewhere else. I was on roller skates after Josh McDonald's told him to pound sand, and I don't even think that Mickey D's is that great of an OC, let alone head coach. Thankfully, the Colts still don't have much of a team outside of Luck, Hilton, or Adam Vinatieri, and I'm sure that will keep them in contention this year. And finally, the New York Jets. Is this some of that trademark Boston?
Yes, forever. Butt fumble.
So that's my evaluation of all 32 NFL teams after 3 weeks of play. Next week I'll be covering a different sport. Playoff time is hitting the MLB, so that's going to be exciting. There could be some really fun matchups there that are worth watching, and I got quite a bit to say about my Red Sox.
Anywho, I encourage you to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments below. I'm sure my fellow Pats fans are going to be mad at me because I didn't say nice words, and I didn't say that losing 2 straight was all part of Bill's master plan, because it's always part of Bill's master plan. And non-Pats fans will disagree with me because they hate me for being a Pats fan in the first place, but I'm okay with that. I've learned to accept it. Or you can just tell me that I'm ripping off Urinating Tree. That's fine too. Bye-bye!